Oh, you look lovely, Robbie. You're like a tiger.
It's all the same, but some things never change. I couldn't stop and say enough. It's all the same, but you won't take blame, even when you are blowing up. Oh my, you're my broken love. Nobody's gonna save her now. Oh my.
Hi everyone, and once again thanks so much for clicking on this video. If you hear any strange noises, it's because I am sat outside in my garden doing this voiceover, living my best life. So if you want to learn how to create this look, then please keep watching. As you can see, it's a massive transformation. I haven't been wearing makeup for what seems like a long time now, other than filming these videos, which is very unusual for me. So I felt very glam once all this makeup was on and like a completely different person, which is great. As always, you can see that I'm starting with the eyebrows with the same pencil as before. This is the MAC spiked pencil. It's a skinny twist up one. So I've started with that underneath line, plotting in that structure line. Then I've worked on the arch and the top, and then feathering lightly towards the front of that eyebrow. Then I'll take a clean disposable mascara wand with quite a bit of pressure, brushing up on that front part to fade that slightly, and then lightly brushing through the rest of the eyebrow just to distribute the product through. I'm switching back between that disposable mascara wand and the brow pencil just to fill in any gaps and any areas to make sure that the brow looks really strong and structured. Now I'm grabbing our P. Louise eyeshadow base. This is in the shade Rumour 02 with my MAC 252 brush. I've made sure that I've got plenty of product on each side of that brush, as you can see, and made the tip of that brush really sharp. Then I'm taking my time to carefully carve underneath that strength line of the eyebrow that we've made, making sure that it's completely smooth. We don't want any bumps, and we want to get rid of any mistakes that we've made with that pencil to make a really sharp, defined line. As you can see, I'm bringing that all the way out, and as you'll see in a minute, I'm taking it all the way into the inner corner as well, just to make sure that we've covered all areas needed where potentially eyeshadow will be going. It also helps after the eyeshadow, so we don't have to come so close to match up with the concealer. Just make sure that we've got a base there already instead of seeing skin underneath it. Means that we're not going to go too close with the concealer and ruin the eyeshadow blend that we're going to make in a moment. That does need to be placed all over the lid quite thickly. The reason for this is that we need to cover all the skin on the eye to even out the skin tone, and it needs to be tacky enough to take on the amount of eyeshadow that we'll be putting on top, so you get the true colours of the eyeshadow. Then I'm switching to a fluffy brush just to diffuse away any of those edges. Because this product is so thick, if we leave those edges there, they will still be visible over the foundation once we try and match it up, and it won't budge to blend it later on. We love multi-use products here at Luxe. We use bronzers and blushes on the eyes all the time, and it just shows you that you don't always need to be using products in exactly the way you're told and how it says on the packaging. So I'm taking a small brush here into the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural in the shade Dark Tan. That's the bronzer that we are using today, and I'm taking that into the socket of the eye, and then once the majority of the product has gone from the brush, I'm taking the brush and slowly easing that upwards and blending the edges of that product, and then slightly just winging it out, again not with any new product on the brush, just with what's left over after we've got rid of most of the product into the socket. The trick here is to have quite a light pressure. You shouldn't see the bristles of the brush moving too much or the actual eye moving too much. If it is, then it means you're pressing too hard and you're not going to get as soft of a blend. Now I'm taking that same brush again, wiping off the excess product on there onto some kitchen roll, and then taking a darker colour. That's going to be focused more directly into the socket, and we're not going to diffuse that upwards quite as much. That's going to be kept quite low down. So again, just dipping into that darker shade and keeping that directly in the socket of the eye to give some more depth. I'm then taking this flat concealer brush from my Kitco. This is really good for packing on colour. So I'm taking this kind of yellowy nudie shade and packing that all over the lid, and then going back to the fluffy brush and diffusing over the edges so there's no solid line where that was placed. Then I decided that I actually wanted it a little bit lighter, so over the top of that, especially the front part, I went in with a lighter matte shade and just pressed that on top. Again, going back to my fluffy brush afterwards to make sure that all the lines are blended. We are then going to create a really nice smoky liner. So I'm using an eyeliner pencil for this. This is a MAC one in the shade Feline, and I am in small motions feathering that backwards and forwards really close along my lash line. So you should feel like you're drawing in between the actual lashes. If you go too high up, then obviously you're going to have a gap and it's going to look quite thick and take over the eyeshadow, especially if you've got a smaller eye space like I have. So once that's all over, you don't need to be too neat with that. I'm switching to a tiny little pencil brush, and I'm actually using a matte really dark brown eyeshadow and going backwards and forwards over the edge of that line just to blur that so it's not so harsh and solid. I want it to look really soft and smoky. So in tiny little sections, going backwards and forwards over that line, getting more product, and then moving on to another section of the line to make sure it's really soft. I'm then taking that same eyeliner pencil and putting that all the way in the waterline on the lower lash line. What goes up must come down, so I'm putting the eyeshadow base underneath that liner just so it gives a base for the eyeshadow to stick onto. I'm just going to blend that liner with a slight bit of dark brown eyeshadow just to match it so the top doesn't overpower the underneath. So this is the dark brown shadow on that pencil brush, and I'm smudging that underneath the liner just to make it slightly softer again. Taking a mascara and then coating the top and bottom lashes, ready to then put strip lashes on top. The lashes I'm using today are from a brand called Prima Lash, and they are in style D40. I give the lashes a little bit of a wiggle just to make the lash band a bit more flexible. I've pre-measured these onto my eyes already and trimmed off the outer end that was a bit too long, put lash glue on there, waited 4 to 5 minutes for them to really go tacky, and then place the centre on and bring the inner corner in and the outer corner in before making sure that they are fully attached and pressing them together with my own lashes to secure them. Now both eyes are done, it's time to move on to the skin. I like to prep the skin first with Embryolisse Lay Cream Concentrate, so I am just putting that on all over, and then to give a little bit of a highlighted effect underneath the makeup, I am using Topshop Illuminating Liquid. This is in the shade Phoenix, and that is being focused on the high points of my face just to give a glow under the foundation. As you can see, although having loads of time away from wearing makeup, my skin is not at its best, so I need quite a bit of coverage here. I'm going to be using MAC Studio Fix Fluid Foundation in the shade NC25. I'm using a spatula to get that all over my skin, and then go into my trusty Luxe blender. That's been soaking in water for a couple of minutes. I've squeezed it in the water to make sure that it's fully absorbed as much as it can. Then I've squeezed it out so there's no excess water in there. The sponge will then double in size and it'll be really soft and ready to blend your foundation flawlessly. So I am patting that all over my skin. Quite a bit of pressure to pat that in. We don't use any swiping or dragging motions, unless it's just to gently pull that product down the neck. The Luxe blender is our own brand of blender, and I can guarantee you that you will not find another sponge that is softer and blends more flawlessly than this on the market. I will leave a link to purchase the Luxe blender below, but it is the most affordable and best performing sponge that you will ever use. Now moving on to concealer, you already know this is my favourite one at the moment. It is from the brand EX1 Cosmetics. You can find them on Beauty Bay. I am using the shade 02 and it's the Delete Fluid Concealer. They are actually all out of stock at the moment. I've had lots of messages asking for recommendations of concealer, which obviously I've recommended this one, and I've had lots of comments saying that unfortunately it is out of stock. So keep your eyes peeled for that one because it is definitely worth the wait. I've added this concealer to all the areas that I want to be more highlighted. Quite a bit under the eyes in a triangle shape, onto the forehead, down the centre of the nose and a tiny bit onto the chin. I'm then going back with my blender to make sure that I'm patting that in all over and blending that into the foundation so there is no start and stop lines. I'll then switch that over to a smaller brush to get into the smaller areas, like right up to that eyeliner underneath the eyes, into the inner corners of the eyes and around the nose and chin. To contour, I'm using a Revolution foundation stick. I believe this is in the shade F13, and I'm adding that all around the hairline, around the temples, underneath the cheekbones, down the edges of the nose to contour there slightly, and then you'll just see in a moment that I go back and add it right to the edges of my eyes on the temples as well. And then not forgetting a tiny little bit under the lower lip as well, which will make it look much fuller once blended out. I'm then switching back to our trusty Luxe blender to make sure that that is all blended and smooth. So you can see that there's different edges to the blender, so I am using the pointed area throughout the majority of this video to blend areas, and then later on you'll see that I use the flat edge to press powder, loose powder under the eyes and onto any areas that need setting. I am still using the same blender here, however people do choose to have more than one for different things. Then you can choose to have separate blenders for foundation, concealer, contour and powder, or you can, obviously as I am here, use the same one for each and just make sure that you are washing it. Hygiene's a really important thing, which we do emphasise on the packaging of the Luxe blender to make sure that they are being washed, so make sure that you follow the instructions there as well. So as you can see, I'm using the flat edge of the blender into the loose powder. This is the RCMA no colour powder, and I am packing that on to any areas really that we use the concealer on. These are normally the most movable areas and the areas that are more likely to get oily or to crease throughout the day. So we want to set those in place so that doesn't happen. I'm also using that powder to sharpen up the contour, just so it's nice and sharp and strong. I'm going to pack that on, let it bake for a little while, and then I'll come back with a fluffy brush later and dust off any of the excess. While I'm waiting for that to work, I'm going back to do any last minute final touches. So that includes putting mascara on just to join my lashes to the false lashes, and it will lift them up and just put them in a better position. This will make it feel much more comfortable for you as well. And then I'm taking that fluffy brush and dusting off any of the excess of that powder that was put on. Now for blusher, this one's from MAC, I believe it's called Lovejoy, and I'm using a Crown C141 brush to put that onto my cheeks. I wanted to have quite a strong blusher look in this look, as to be honest I do usually like that anyway, so I'm just gradually building that up. It is quite a strong colour, so just make sure that you're doing it gradually in light layers to get the desired effect. Now for one of the best bits, it's highlighter. So this is our trusty Doll Beauty highlighter, the glowiest highlighters of all. I'm using a fluffy brush just to get that mainly on the areas that I want. So tops of the cheekbones, above the arch of the eyebrow, down the centre of the nose, and a little bit on the top of the lip. And then just to intensify that a lot more, I'm taking a smaller brush and I'm focusing that on a smaller area. So the areas that I really want to pop when I take a photo or a video, just areas that are going to catch the light, but I don't want that to be everywhere. So I'm just checking here in the light where it's showing up, and then I'll make sure that I go back to my blusher brush to blend in the areas. The lip liner I'm using is a MAC one in the shade Nice and Spicy. I believe this is a Pro Long Wear one. So I'm just lining the edges of my lips, and then I'm going to fill that in with a MAC lipstick. The colour I've chosen for lipstick is the shade Yash from MAC, and this is a really nice beige toned nude. This is a matte shade and I did want it to be more glossy, so here you can see that I've just added a Doll Beauty gloss in the shade Blogged on top. This is my favourite at the moment. And that's it guys, I am ready to go and sit in the living room and do nothing. Once again, thanks so much for watching. Make sure that you subscribe, comment and like this video, and I'll see you next time.